Today we got our second look at Warhammer the Old World rules, and there are some big changes. I mean big changes from Warhammer Fantasy, because obviously this is the first edition of Warhammer the Old World. But the movement is looking very spicy, very interesting, so let's jump in and let's have a look at it. So this article was posted today, and it talks about the movement phase and introducing marching columns. But there's a couple of extra things as well, so let's jump forward and let's have a look at what we actually have. First thing they talk about are some formations. Basically there's a couple. You have the close order, which is your classic rank and file. You've got skirmish, which is your classic skirmish, and you also have open order, which I can't remember the name of it, but basically used to have like ranked skirmish units. Sounds a bit weird, but I'm sure you guys know what I mean. Sort of sounds like that, except they're actually going to be close together, but you will have some benefits. And if you're the Bretonians, you have the lance formation, and they have the images that sort of go along with it. We have the classic rank and file. We have the skirmish, where I think everything just has to be within an inch, and then the Bretonians have the lance formation. Okay, they're the only formations available, I think. As I said, the closed formation is effectively your normal rank and file. There doesn't appear to be any massive changes. You need to try and have the same number of models in each rank. Obviously, if people are dying, then that's not the case, but it's not like you can have 10 wide and then 7 in the next one and then 5 in the next. It would need to be 10, 10, and then the remainder, if that makes sense. You do all the normal walking, wheeling, charging, and all that kind of stuff with flanks and rears. That makes sense. However, they are introducing something called a marching column. Now, when I was playing, this wasn't in. It might have been in previous editions, I'm not really sure. But basically, you can effectively put yourself in a way where you have a more narrow front than you do ranks. You reform into a shape that is deeper than it is wide. And in this way, you can actually move at triple speed, effectively making it so that if you're in that formation, you can get around the board a lot quicker. That's very interesting. It seems a bit risky because if you do get attacked, you have no rank bonus in combat. But if you end up deploying on maybe the wrong side of the board and, you know, all the combat and all the interesting things on the other side, that'll let you get there a lot easier. Triple the movement speed is not insignificant. I'm assuming that's basically like the walk, the march, and then the triple movement. So you've got your combat order, which is the one that we sort of know. And then you have the marching column, which because you can see that there's more ranks than they are wide, then they are in a marching column and they can go triple the speed. That could really mix up the game. Now you do have the skirmisher special rule. As long as you're all within an inch of each other, you're all good. They tend to be highly maneuverable, often hitting enemies with like missiles and then running away and stuff like that, flank charges, all that kind of stuff. But there are also these open order units, which are still in ranks. Meanwhile, they are faster and more agile and can get through terrain better. Very interesting. Not 100% sure how that will work, but yeah, sounds cool. Then they talk in more detail about the movement phase, which like all of the phases is broken down into 4 parts. The first one is that you declare charges. It's the only way to enter combat. Now, when I read that, I sort of assume that means there's no overrun or anything like that. The only way to get into combat is to declare a charge in this phase. Obviously, you must be able to see the unit, it must be in your front arc, and your unit cannot obviously be fleeing. Your unit cannot have rallied this turn, so basically if you rallied this turn, you can't charge. However, you may pre-measure the distance to your targets. That's something that's not been in every edition. That's going to be interesting for sure. I'm assuming that's going to let you like measure and then decide if you want to charge or not. Also reduces some of the pain points, so you can sort of say, okay, I need an 8. Do you agree? Okay, I will then charge it and then I will roll. I think probably for the best, mainly just about stopping arguments, because you get people who are like, when you're measuring something else, you can sort of have your tape measuring away and it can all be a little bit dodgy. It's better to just let you measure, I think, in the main. However, there is a bit of joy in guessing like cannon distances, but probably for the best. Once you've declared all your charges, the inactive player, the opposite guy basically or girl, they can declare their charge reactions. You can hold, you can stand and shoot, if you have missile weapons and you are further away than the charging unit's movement characteristic. Or of course you can flee, in which case you literally do a 180 and flee, but if you're caught, you will be run down and destroyed. If you flee and fail, you're dead. Some units can counter-charge. Not really sure which ones they will be, but that'll be interesting. You can then actually make your charge moves. You roll 2 dice, but then you pick the highest from the 2. So it's not like combining it or anything like that. You literally just pick the highest. That will eliminate some variants, but not like all the variants. You add that to your movement characteristics and you're done. So a unit of skeleton warriors that have a charge range between 5 and 10 inches, basically telling us, I guess, that their movement there is 4 inches. Bretonian knights, on the other hand, they're dangerous with the Swift Stride rule, they add an extra d6 to every charge they make. There is going to be the normal movement with wheeling, and they sort of going to explain this in a bit, and then you got to get in base contact. Boom, I'm pretty sure you guys know what that is. If you whiff the roll, the charge is failed and you move all of the full distance, and if you're literally just stranded in the middle of nowhere, stuff, you're just stranded in the middle of nowhere, and they can easily just charge you back. And then the third step is compulsory moves. Now, am I a little bit weird, or did you used to be able to like get compulsory to charge with like frenzy and stuff like that? So you can't compulsory into combat anymore, and actually if you charge, you then don't do your compulsory. I say that right, but stupidity would be here, so maybe that comes in that phase in the one that we learned about last week. Probably. I'm not sure if this is new or if I'm just going a little bit crazy, but yeah, the sequencing here makes it a little bit interesting. It's also where you do like the random movement and the night goblins and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, cool. The next bit is you just do your remaining moves, and that is basically movement as normal. And they basically explain wheeling. They also talk about how in general units can just either move or march. Move is normal movement, but you can shoot. March is W movement, but you can't. You have to do all the stuff with the wheeling. There's a couple of extra things here. Obviously, wheeling is just the, you know how it is. You've got to measure from the side, and you know it's all a bit weird. I sort of wish they simplified it, but obviously if they simplify it, maybe it simplifies the game a little bit too much. It's going to be still complicated. The wheel distance obviously is reduced from your movement. It counts as movement. You can do a turn where you can go either 90 degrees or 180 for a quarter of your movement for each 90 degrees, so a quarter then half. You can move backwards, you can move sideways at half pace, you can redress the ranks or reform. And we know that next up is the shooting phase, and considering the strategy phase happened last Monday, it's pretty obvious that the shooting phase will be next Monday. Very exciting. So yeah, I think the marching column is probably the big change there. Wasn't in any of the editions I played, it might have been in some of the older ones, I'm not sure. I don't think, although I'm a little bit confused by it, putting the compulsory moves after the charge will really ultimately make that big of a difference, because I think that anything that is required might actually end up happening in the strategy phase. But I just thought I'd highlight it because I was a little bit confused when I first saw it. Other than that, I'm really liking this. Definitely feels like we're heading towards a February release at this point. I can't see how we're not. We're getting like rules information, and we're probably 2-3 months out. Yeah, surely there's going to be a lot for us to be shown, and I'm eager for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to support me, I do have a Patreon, but there's no pressure to do that. Other than that, I hope you have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.